And thereafter, we will discuss the guidance, the knowledge which the Supreme Lord is giving in Bhagavad Gita. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitansha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatarine Hare Krishna. So in the verses 21st till 26, which we discussed in the last session, Krishna is giving the example of a person who is self-realized. Being self-realized, he is not obliged to perform his occupational duties because he is already liberated. Occupational duties are performed to come to the platform of liberation. Liberation means where there is no reaction to his action. But still he performs his prescribed duties to set the right example. In the society, what we are actually lacking are real role models. Those who are exemplary examples. Those who are there to give us inspiration and practical demonstration of how we should follow the guidelines which are given in Bhagavad Gita. Normally, the people in society who are their icons or role models, so-called cine stars or cricket stars or rock stars or pop stars. But if you examine their personal life, their behavior, their conduct, their character, it is not as per the scriptural guidelines. They are not following the path of dharma. And because they are not following the path of dharma, they are those whose life is inflicted by lustful activities. And lust propels them to perform many sinful activities, many illicit relationships. And the society is blindly following it. And so we experience the society which is facing so much of conflicts and mistrust in all relationships. So we need such exemplary people, such character people who can become our role models. Our role models should be saintly persons, not those who are sinful persons. So Krishna is setting the right example. He is saying that there are liberated personalities like Maharaj Janak, and other kingly, saintly kings like Maharaj Parikshit or Lord Ram himself. So they set the right example. They, by their own life, they are teaching how one should act on the platform of duty, not on the platform of desire. Everyone in today's world is infatuated by his desires. And at the level of desire, he is into sense gratification, sinful action. So of course he will suffer, and those who will follow him, they will also suffer. So Krishna is setting the right example, and he gives the example of himself, that how impeccably, although he was the king in the kingdom of Dwarika, but he would follow the scriptural codes very, very diligently to set the right example. And then Krishna, in the following verses, from verse number 25th and 26th, which we discussed. So Krishna is contrasting about two persons, one who is in knowledge and the other who is ignorant. A person who is in knowledge, how he relates and how he responds to the person who is ignorant of the self, which is the soul. So today's verse, then in the last verse, Krishna says that one who is not in knowledge, the person who is in knowledge, that means the person who is a devotee, who is practicing the path of Krishna consciousness, he should gradually inspire them and uplift them. Joshet sarva karma. So that he does not abruptly stop them from what they are doing, but he guides them gradually to come to the platform of performing devotional service. And what is the mentality of the person? Those who are very much attached to the results or fruits of their actions. This Krishna will explain today. So we will take the 27th verse of the 3rd chapter. We'll continue from the next verse, which is the 27th verse. And here in this verse, Krishna is talking about the person who is very much attached to enjoy the fruits of his work. So what is his thought process, or what is the level of ignorance that he is entrapped in? Very, very powerful verse. Verse number 27. Prakarte kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. So Krishna is talking about the thought process or the mindset of the person who is not in knowledge. So such a person, what he is thinking or what he is feeling, what is his mindset. So the action or the activities which he performs, he thinks that he is the only doer. We will take the verse from the last section. Kartaham iti manyate. Karta means the performer of the action or the activity. Aham means me. And manyate means he thinks or he accepts. So he thinks that whatever action he does, that he is the only doer. Or it is because of him that any action or any result has come. And why is this so? Why is he so possessed, or why is he so obsessed about himself? Because of ahankara. Ahankara means false ego. And why do we say ahankara? Why we say false ego? Why is it considered to be so bad or so negative? Why is it not considered positive? So Krishna gives a very interesting word. He says, Vimudha Atma. Atma means the soul. And Vimudha means one who is deluded or one who is bewildered. So what is the bewilderment? That instead of considering himself as Atma or soul, what is he thinking? He is thinking himself something else. So there are two aspects. One is Ajnana, which is ignorance. What is the ignorance? That he is not able to realize himself as the soul. He considers the body to be himself. And second aspect is Ahankara, which is ego. Very, very deep impediments to progress in spiritual life. What? One is the ignorance, Ajnana. And on top of Ajnana, if you have Ahankara. So both these inequalities will not allow the soul to progress. Like someone who is a drunkard. Why he drinks? Because he thinks that by drinking, he can be happy. So what is his position? Is he in knowledge or is he in ignorance? He is in ignorance. Because the alcohol, what the alcohol will do, will damage his internal organs of the body. His liver will be damaged. But that person who is in ignorance, who is in non-knowledge, if you try to tell him that this is harmful, every cigarette smoker, when he sees the packet of cigarette, it is clearly written, statutory warning, cigarette smoking is injurious to health. But in spite of that, he smokes. What is it? It is both. It is because of his ignorance. And his ignorance cannot be removed because on top of that, he has ahankar. This is false ego. So false ego does not allow him to accept knowledge or to give up the ignorance. So he is self-destructive. He does not need anyone else from outside to do harm to him. He himself is the cause of his suffering and fall down and destruction. So such a person is called Vimudha. Mudha means foolish. But Vimudha means one who is foolish to the last limit. Why? Because such a person, he does self-destruction. So Krishna is saying here that if someone is thinking that he is the only doer of the activity or action or result which has come about, as he is the only doer, he is not acknowledging the role of others. Such a person is because of his false ego, his ignorance. Why? That what are the factors which make any activity or action happen? So Krishna gives that in the first line. He says, Prakriti Kriyamanani. Prakriti means the material nature. The material nature facilitates. It provides all the ingredients for any activity or action. I'll give a simple example how to understand this. Supposingly, a big 5-star hotel has been constructed. A new 5-star hotel has been constructed. So the principal architect, who was the brain behind this project, if he thinks that this property has been built because of me, because of my intelligence, or because of my skill, or because of my know-how, but is he the only doer? Can that person alone, is he capable to create that property? Did it not require so many workers, laborers, mansions, carpenters, plumbers, so electricals, electricians, engineers, so many? Did it not require steel, cement, sand, wood? So many contributors are there. Is it possible for him alone to do it? So this is ignorance. So Prakriti Kriyamanani. So the soul, the living entity Jiva, he desires or he aspires to perform some action. But there are three doers. Not the Jiva is the only doer. As we will go in the 5th chapter, it will become more elaborate. The one who is in knowledge can see all three. One is the Jiva himself, the living entity, who has aspiration or who desires. But the super soul who is in the heart, he sanctions. Without the sanction of super soul, whatever aspiration or whatever desire we may be having, but it will not translate into reality or activity. The super soul is the one who sanctions. And material nature, Prakriti, is the one which facilitates, which provides all the ingredients. So one who is in ignorance, one who is attached, and one who is guided by his false ego, he is so much blinded that he cannot see all this. So here Krishna is giving this principle that the spirit soul, now see the translation, the spirit soul bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities. So in today's world, this is the spirit. This is the spirit that Ishwaro aham bhogi. That I am the one who has created it. I am the one who is the proprietor of it. And I am the one who will enjoy it. Bhogi. So all kinds of conflicts and all kinds of disturbances in the society are due to this mentality of kartam, ahankara. So the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So there are three modes. I'll give you another example, simple example to understand. Like a wood cutter. When we go into the villages, people chop off the tree and use it as a fuel to cook wood. So when the wood is being cut, can the wood cutter alone cut it? Can he cut it without the help of an axe? Even if he has only the axe, if he does not have the wedge, which is the handle, which comes from the wood, can he cut it? He cannot cut it. So this verse is clearly saying that a person who is in ignorance is always bewildered. He is always vimudha. Why? Because he is thinking himself to be the doer. Let us see the purport, what Prabhupada explains. That two persons is one who is in ignorance and one who is in knowledge. So what is the difference? What is the contrast? One in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness. Working on the same level. May appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective position. Where is the difference? The difference is in their understanding. The difference is in their thinking. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is the doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. How? Not directly. Because he considers himself to be the body, and the body is under the law of karma, and the law of karma is under the law of nature, and the law of nature is under Krishna's supervision. When we will come into the 9th chapter, Krishna will directly speak. Maya adhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharachara. That this material nature We see this material nature, everything is in perfect harmony. Once the seasons change, in every year we have 6 seasons, and there is perfect harmony. After the winter was there, then there was spring, and then now it is summer. After summer, we will have rains, and before winter again autumn will come, and then we will have winter. So this cyclical movement is perfect. It is never that just after rains we directly have winter season. No. The movement of all the planets is in perfect order. Everything which is there in material nature, it is in complete control. So who is the controller? The controller is the Supreme Lord. But a person who is guided by false ego, he cannot see it. He cannot acknowledge it. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently. And that is the symptom of his nations. Nations means ignorance. He does not know that his gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature. Gross body is a Panch Mahabhut, the 5 gross elements. What is this body comprising of? It is comprising of earth, water, air, fire, and ether. They are the 5 gross elements. The body is born and the body dies. And when the body is dead, either it is burned or it is buried. What it does, it gets again transformed into these 5 elements. And even the subtle body is mind, intelligence, and false ego. That is also made up of material elements. So, the person who is in ignorance, he cannot acknowledge. He cannot accept this. He does not know that his gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature. When we will come to the 7th chapter, Krishna will very explicitly speak about this knowledge. And he will say that Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhi Revacha Ahankar Iti Mayam Me Bhinna Prakriti Rashtrata. So these are 8, the 5 gross: earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are all 8. These are Bhinna Prakriti. Bhinna Prakriti means inferior nature, material nature. This is Krishna's separated energy. So one who is not directly in connection with Krishna is definitely in connection with material nature. How? Through these 8 elements. So he does not know that his gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna. So those who are not following the principles of Krishna, those who are not engaging in devotional service or devotional activities, so what they are following? They are following their false ego. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesha. Rishika means the senses, and Isha means the controller. So Krishna's another name is Rishikesha. How? Because he is the one who actually controls our mind and our senses. That is why, however we may try, however, whoever may be trying, he cannot control completely his mind and senses. Why? Because it is like controlling nature. Can anyone control nature? Scientists have tried many times. But we see that one stroke of nature, Either it comes in the form of tsunami, or it comes in the form of COVID, or in many ways, even at times, forest fire or floods, and it devastates all human endeavors and efforts. It is all, overwhelmed in one stroke. Similarly, the mind and senses, they are all the product of material nature. It is not possible for any human to control it. So who is the controller? The controller is the Supreme Lord Krishna, whose name is Rishikesha, who controls the mind and senses, but he does not control of anyone and everyone. He only controls the mind and senses of his surrendered devotees, those who have submitted and offered their life to him. When we were discussing the first chapter, Prabhupada, in one of the purports, he mentions that, I think it is in 115, that Krishna only controls, whereas the other mind and senses are controlled by material nature. So they cannot control. Can anyone control material nature? Not possible. But Krishna controls the mind and senses of his devotees. So the ignorant man forgets the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Rishikesha, or the master of the senses and the material body, for due to his long misuse of the senses in sense gratification. This is another reason that why he cannot control, because his senses have already become so venomous. It is why? Because he has engaged the senses in sense gratification, in sense enjoyment, in self-pleasure, in self-obsession, in the self. That means his body has been his center of activity. He is factually bewildered by the false ego. And why he is doing so? Because he is not guided by Guru or Krishna. If we are not guided by Guru or Krishna, who will be guided by? We will be guided by our false ego. And you know how the false ego works? It works through the mechanism of mind. If you will study the introduction, Prabhupada has very clearly mentioned that what is this false ego? The false ego, it does not have any physical presence. There is physical presence of mind and intelligence in the heart. Mind and intelligence is not in the head, as people understand. It is in the heart. Heart is the nucleus. Why? Because in the heart, the soul and the super soul both reside. And how the soul is kept in bondage. What is the bondage? That the soul is captive, is encased by mind, intelligence, and false ego. Like we have a mobile phone. Mobile phone is there. If you can see this mobile phone. You can see this mobile phone. So the SIM card, the mobile phone, it has 3 levels. What is the gross level? The gross level is the cover body. The cover can be removed anytime, and we can get a new cover. The cover can be removed. So this is like a garment, outer. But within the mobile, there is applications, apps, as we call it. So how do we function? How does the mobile function? It functions through the apps. So these apps are compared to the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego. But even if you have the best of the cover, the best of the apps, but if you do not insert SIM, if you do not have a SIM card in your mobile, what is the use of that mobile? It is useless. And the SIM is compared to the soul. So a person who is ignorant, he will not be knowing that the mobile is acting because the presence of SIM is there. If you remove the SIM, the soul is gone. You may have the best of the app, but what is the use? What will it do? It can do nothing. It is useless. So those who are in ignorance, they are using this body, they are using their mind and senses to enjoy independently from the Supreme. So this is called the misuse. They are using this body, which is they have been given, to engage in service of the Supreme Lord, but they are using this body for sense pleasure. He is factually bewildered by false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. So here Krishna is saying, this is the position of one who is in ignorance. Whereas the one who is in knowledge, Krishna speaks in the next word. So what is his mindset and how he sees things? This 28th verse. Tatvittu mahabaho guna karma vibhagayo guna guneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. So one who is in knowledge, tattva. Tattva means the absolute truth, the truth which never changes. In this material world, everything is changing every moment. We have the constitution, the law, which is the governing, guiding principle for all of us as citizens of India or of any state or any country. But what do we see in that constitution? There are amendments. There are constant amendments. More than hundreds of amendments have happened. Our freedom movement, India's independence is not even 100 years. But amendments are more than 100. Why? Because none of them is tattva. Tattva means that is the truth which never changes. It is the absolute truth. It is perfect. So one who, with means to know. One who is in knowledge. What is the knowledge? Knowledge of the reality, of the absolute truth. So what he sees, Tatvit is person who is in knowledge of the Supreme. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth. And Krishna is calling Arjuna Mahabaho. Baho means the arms. And Mahabaho means the big arms or very powerful arms or the mighty arms. Why? Because Arjuna was capable of fighting more than 10,000 soldiers single-handedly. He had this skill that he could defeat the entire army himself. So Krishna is saying that a person who is in knowledge is a Mahabahu. And what he understands, what is his insight, is Guna Karma Vibhagayo. Vibhag means the difference. So a person who is in knowledge of the absolute truth or mighty arm does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification. But a person who is in ignorance, he engages the senses because he is guided by false ego, which we discussed in the last verse. He engages his senses in sense pleasure, in sense enjoyment. Because the center is the body. He is not in knowledge of the tattva, of the eternal truth. But a person who is in knowledge, he does not engage himself in senses and sense gratification. Why? Knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive result. So he knows the vibhaga. He knows the difference. So Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada says that knower of the absolute truth is convinced of his awkward position in material association. So this is one who is not guided by, who is not deluded by false ego, by ahankar. So how is he guided? He is guided by knowledge. So what is the knowledge? That material sense pleasure can never give any satisfaction to the soul. They are incompatible. You understand what is compatible? Compatible means that can go together. Incompatible means that two cannot go together. Like if you mix oil and water, will it mix? It will not mix. If somebody thinks he is very clever and instead of putting fuel or gas in the car, he puts oil. Instead of putting oil, he puts water. What will happen? The engine will become useless. It is incompatible. It will not work. So similarly, the senses, if they are misused for sense pleasure, then it will cause the destruction of the person. But person who is in knowledge, he never uses the senses for sense gratification. Why? Because he knows the difference of work in devotion. Engaging the senses in service of Krishna is devotion. And engaging the senses for self-pleasure, for sense gratification, is destruction. आत्मेंद्रिय प्रीति वांछा तारे बोले काम, and Krishnendriya प्रीति इच्छा dhare premana. Indriya means the senses. Atmendriya means when one is considering himself to be the body, and the senses as the means to enjoy this body. Atmendriya priti vancha tare bole. This is called lust. Krishna will give a very detailed description of lust in this chapter when we will come to the final section, which we will discuss next time and maybe next to next time. So all these examples that we see of so-called successful people, they're actually not success. They're all driven by false ego. And what is the propelling instrument behind that false ego? Is lust. Tare bole kam. And Krishnendriya priti vancha. But one who engages his senses in the pleasure of Krishna, dhare premana. Such a person is at the platform of real love, eternal love. So let's go ahead. The knower of the absolute truth is convinced of his awkward position in material association. So in material association means by this material body, by the material mind, by the material intelligence, and of course the false ego, he cannot enjoy. Not possible, because he is spirit soul. Spirit soul cannot enjoy through matter. That's not possible. He knows that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows he does not have misidentification. He knows his origin. Like our scientists make us believe that we come from monkey. If we are all coming from monkey, then our fathers, our ancestors are all monkeys. If that was true, then now all the monkeys would have converted to become human. Then there was no possibility of seeing any species as monkey. Was it possible? In so many millions of years, all the monkeys would have transformed to become humans. Common sense, plain common sense. Or did you find any species of monkey which is half human and half monkey? That the progression is happening. In few more years, this half monkey, half man, in 5 years or 10 years, will convert to become full man. We did not come from monkey. Monkeys come from monkey's mother, father. But where we are coming from? We are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he knows that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and that his position should not be in this material creation. So the soul is in incompatible position while he is in this material body. Because in material body with the material mind, he cannot enjoy. He cannot experience the real pleasure. He knows his real identity as part and parcel of the Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge. So unless and until one is in knowledge, one can never experience that higher pleasure. That eternal pleasure which the soul is craving for, hankering for. And he realizes that somehow or other he is entrapped in material conception of life. In his pure state of existence, he is meant to dovetail his activities in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the obvious question is that why we are not able to realize this, that what is our awkward position, and why there is so much of intense struggle for existence, and all the attempts that we are endeavoring or we are making is not resulting in that ultimate pleasure. Why are we not able to realize it? So here, Prabhupada is explaining that because our state of existence is not pure, it is impure. Why? Krishna will explain when we will come to the next verses, that it is because of our lustful tendencies or lustful propensities. Like magnet attracts every iron, but does the magnet attract the wood? It does not. It even does not attract the rusted iron. So does that mean that magnet is useless? No. So unless and until one comes to the pure state, he cannot realize his position. He cannot realize his awkward position. Again and again, he will try through his mind and body to enjoy in this material world. He therefore, the person who is in knowledge, engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of material senses. So how to come out of this very, very strong cycle of trying to enjoy through material senses? Why? Unless and until the identification changes, unless and until one comes to realize that he is not this body, this attempt or this endeavor can never be changed. Like I am having this specs, these glasses. So if I wear a green colored glass, so what will be my vision? Everything I will see will look green. Is it green everywhere? No. It is only because my vision is covered with the glass which has green color. If I change this glass from green to yellow, everything will look yellow. But is everything green and yellow? No. If I have to look things clear, what I have to have? I have to have a clear glass. So unless and until the false identification is removed, and why the false identification? Because of one's ignorance, not having this knowledge, and as Krishna explained in the last verse, because of his ahankar. So many times we meet so many people, those who show enthusiasm also. But when this knowledge is given, they are unable to accept it. Why? Because of ahankar, a falsity. So how to come out of ahankar? We should be humble. We should first thing we should accept that yes, I do not know. When one accepts this internally that he does not know, then the possibility of knowing or possibility of receiving knowledge opens up. Otherwise, there is no possibility. Like a glass which is already filled with water. How can you put honey in it? If you even pour honey, it will just fall off the glass because the glass is already filled with water. So here Prabhupada is explaining that the person who is in Krishna consciousness, he does not engage. Why? Because he is not propelled by ahankar. He is guided by knowledge. And he is unattached to material activities, which are circumstantial and temporary. He knows that his material condition of life is under the supreme control of the Lord. Consequently, he is not disturbed by all kinds of material reactions, which he considers to be the mercy of the Lord. This is very, very high level of consciousness. That he is so detached, he is so much unaffected, that whatever reverses, whatever disturbances, or whatever even difficulties or impediment comes in his life, he is completely detached, he's completely aloof, he's completely unaffected. Why? Because he knows that under every situation, Krishna is the controller. So why should I be in any anxiety? One who knows the absolute truth in three different features, namely the Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Tattvavid. So Prabhupada is clearing. Tattva, as I say, is the absolute truth. So the absolute truth is realized in three features or at three levels. Like any education, we are all gaining education. You are all studying in IERI. It's a institute of excellence, excellence in research. But at what level? At the highest level, PhD. But preliminary education is given at the school level. Then there is education which is given at the graduation level. But at graduation level, that is not this kind of excellence or research. So this is given at the PhD level. So similarly, the absolute truth has three features. It is the Brahman feature. We will discuss that when we come to the fourth chapter, which is transcendental knowledge. Unless this ahankar and agyan is removed, this tattva gyan cannot penetrate. So the fourth chapter after this chapter is transcendental knowledge. So that knowledge can only come when one has, become free from impurities, free from ajnana and ahankara. Who is a tattva is, he knows the Supreme Personality of God in three features, and he also knows his own factual position in relationship with the Supreme. So he knows his eternal identity as he is part and parcel of the Supreme. So our father is not monkey. Our father is Supreme Krishna. And it will become even more clearer when we come in the 14th chapter. Even in the 9th chapter, Krishna says, Pitahamasta Jagato Mata Dhata Pitamaham. He says, I am also the father. And I am also the father of your father, Pitamaham. Not only just the father who gives the seed, I am also like your mother who gives the nourishment. Mata Dhata Pitamaha. It takes the position of every one who takes care of us. So we will take the 29th verse further. And one who is not Tattvavid, who is he? He is Samudha. Krishna is contrasting, so he is explaining the difference between one who is in knowledge, what is his consciousness or what is his mindset, and one who is in ignorance, how he acts. So Krishna is giving the difference between both. And in 29th verse again he speaks of one those who are not in knowledge. Prakartir guna sammudha sajjante guna karmashu tan akrishna vidomandan Krishna vinna vichale. So Prakriti guna sammudha. That Prakriti means the material nature. So Prakriti is also the one of the reasons how this material nature acts is also very interesting. As we will proceed, we will know how the material nature acts. It acts through the three modes. There are three modes which impact and influence everyone in this entire creation. The purest form of mode is in the mode of goodness, which is called the Sattva Guna. Then lower than the Sattva Guna is the mode of Rajo Guna, which is passion. And even lowest is ignorance, which is called Tamo Guna. And the modes bewilder the Jiva. What is the bewilderment caused by the mode? That the modes make the Jiva consider himself to be the body and not the Atma. So Prakrtir Guna, by the material modes, One is Sammudha. Mudha, as I said, is foolish. Sammudha means who is extremely foolish, who does not know what is right and what is wrong. So bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage himself in material activities and becomes attached. One example comes to me. Have you seen how these so-called hunters, or those who make monkeys dance and all, the nutman, how they catch monkeys? They don't have to throw nets to catch monkey. What they do, they keep a pitcher, you understand, surahi, and in that pitcher they put some chana, some chickpeas. And when the monkey, he sees that there are chickpeas inside the pitcher, what he does, he puts his hand inside to catch those, to enjoy those chickpeas. And as he puts his hand inside and he holds those chickpeas and he wants to bring his hand back, he is caught. His hand is trapped in the pitcher. The hunter has not done anything. It is the monkey's foolishness that he cannot be released. Why? Because he is attached, he is holding that chickpeas in his hand. If he drops the chickpeas, his hand will be released. But because he is thinking that chickpeas will give him enjoyment. And that chickpeas, he does not want to give away with. So same thing Krishna is explaining, that the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and becomes attached. The monkey is attached to the chickpeas and he gets caught. That nut man comes and he catches the monkey. And then he trains them to perform all kinds of tricks and he gets his living by that monkey's trick. Similarly, material nature, it is making a fool of ourselves. It is making us monkey. How it is making us monkey? Because of the influence of more, it is making us think that through this body you can enjoy. And every time we are trapped. Why? As soon as we see the sense object, like the monkey sees the chickpeas, he is thinking that he'll be able to enjoy. And he's trapped. But the wise man should not unsettle man. So Krishna is, giving a higher principle, that especially for devotees, that how to bring people in Krishna consciousness. Although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. So people, mostly in this age, we will see those who are in ignorance and who are infatuated by false ego. Previously also Krishna said in the 26th verse that not to disrupt the minds of ignorant man. Here also Krishna is saying that, but the wise should not unsettle them. So the persons who are unknowledgeable falsely identify with gross material consciousness and are full of material designations. The body is a gift of the material nature, and one who is too much attached to the bodily consciousness is called a manda. Here the two words are being used by Krishna. One is sammudha. Sammudha means who is bewildered to the highest extent. And the other is mandan. Mandan means one whose consciousness is low. Low level of consciousness means like the trees. What is the level of consciousness of the tree? Can they protect from themselves from heat, from rain, from cold? No. Somebody comes and cuts them. Can they defend themselves? No. But are trees having life or are they lifeless? The trees are having life. So, so because their level of consciousness is low. So similarly, those people whose level of consciousness is low because of ignorance, because of not being situated in knowledge, so they will perform all foolish activities, those activities which are harmful for their self, for their Atma. Or a lazy person without understanding of spirit soul, ignorant one thing of the body as the self, they accept bodily connections with others as kinsmanship, the land in which the body is obtained as their object of worship. And they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be ends in themselves. So this is the mass of men, not class of men, mass of men. They have this kind of thinking or level of consciousness. Janma Bhumi, Matrabhumi, Janma of what? Janma of body. But is the body self? So, this is all due to being bereft of the knowledge of soul. Social work, nationalism, and altruism are some of the activities for such materially designated people. Under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth. And so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. So Krishna is saying, don't try to abrupt them. It will not be possible for them to change abruptly. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord. So, but if we do not wake up, if we do not go and tell them the reality, how will they come to know? So Srila Prabhupada is what he is mentioning, this is what he has felt in his heart, that the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kind of risk, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human beings. So Krishna is advising, leave them. Don't go and unsettle them. Then don't try and preach to them. Because they are so much attached, they are so much in ignorance, and ignorance and attachment on top of that, they are guided by their false ego. They will not listen. So leave them. But the devotees of the Lord, as Prabhupada is saying, are more kind. Because they know what is there in the heart of the Lord. The Lord wants that none of his child should suffer. And how the suffering can be removed? When they become awakened in Krishna consciousness. And in the next verse, Krishna tells Arjuna that how he actually wants Arjuna to act. What he wants from Arjuna. And through Arjuna, he is giving this lesson for all of us. And what actually the Lord is desiring from all of us. Very powerful verse. This verse is also the purpose verse of Bhagavad Gita. Mai sarvani karmani sannyāsadhyātma cetasa nirashi nirmamo bhutva yuddhasva vigat jvara. So if we see this verse, again this verse is in 4 parts. The first part is Mai sarvani karmani. That whatever action you perform, karmani is action or activities. Where should be the focus? unto me, not unto yourself. My Sarvan. In all activities, keep me as the center or as the focus. So if we keep Krishna as the focus in the center, then what we have to understand, sannyas adhyatma chetasa. When one is in knowledge of Krishna, when one knows that Krishna is the master, when Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the proprietor, then only he can keep Krishna in the center. Otherwise, the consciousness is I. This age is of I. iPhone or iWatch. Everything is I, me, and mine. But nowhere Krishna is in center. So how this will come? When one is detached, sannyasa. Sannyasa means that he is renounced. Renounced from what? From attachment to his fruits of his action. And what is his chetana? What is his consciousness? Adhyatma. Adhyatma means spiritual. And full knowledge. And he is nirashi and nirmama. Asha, you know, Asha means hopes. And in this material world, every living entity, especially in this human form of life, he has unlimited desires. What is that song? Chota sa dil hai, choti si asha. Something is there. But people have unlimited desires. But Krishna is saying how you have to act. Nira ashi. Nir means without personal aspirations or personal gains. And nirmamo. Mama means that it belongs to me. The possessiveness. The spirit of being the owner. So Krishna is, if you see in this second line, is uplifting Arjuna to be free from the lower modes. Because when one is in mode of passion, what is the mode of passion? That he has unlimited desires to enjoy. And what is his mentality? He thinks, whatever I have earned is mine. It belongs to me. So Krishna is elevating Arjuna to go beyond. He's saying, Nirashi Nirmama. Why? You transcend or you go beyond the mode of passion. And the final part is Yuddhasva Vigajvara. Yuddhasva means you fight. How you fight? You fight by giving up all kind of lethargy or complacency or laziness. What is this lethargy? Lethargy or laziness comes from mode of ignorance. Mode of ignorance also means one who is not in knowledge. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that you elevate from the lower modes of ignorance and passion, and even from mode of goodness. How? By being in Adhyatma Chetasa. So therefore, Arjuna, surrendering all your work unto me. This is my Sarvani Karana. That you work for me. Surrender all your work for me. This is what it means, Sarv Dharmani Parityaja. That all activity we do only for pleasing Krishna. Nothing else. With full knowledge, but it cannot happen in this stage. Working for Krishna's pleasure is also called yajna, which we discussed in the previous sections. Yajna means the performance of activities for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So Krishna is giving his final verdict and what he actually wants from Arjuna. And through Arjuna, he is giving us this principle, this teaching, or this standard to all of us. That We have to learn to surrender all our work, all our activities, all our actions to Krishna. And how that will happen? When we are in knowledge, full knowledge. And when we are free from the lower modes of passion and ignorance, which is without desire for profit and no claims to proprietorship. This is actually karmanye vadhikaraste. Ma phaleshu kadachana. No desire for profit. Ma karma phal heturbo. No claims to proprietorship. And Sangha Astuva Karmani. But you do not have the right not to perform your action. That is why Krishna is saying, free from lethargy. So Krishna so far has explained whatever principles he has explained. Now he is giving how to implement it. This verse, Prabhupada says, clearly indicates the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. What is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? To act for Krishna's pleasure. Free from desire for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duty as if in military discipline. So Krishna consciousness does not mean that one can do whatever he wants whenever he wants. No. It is to be executed like military discipline. Military discipline, that means there is every activity which is designated and there is a time for it. It is not that you can do whatever whenever you like. So whatever is to be done, is to be done in strict disciplines, in adherence. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. The practical part. It may look a little difficult. Why? Because the mind is not trained. The mind is not tuned. The mind does not accept. Why? Because the programming of the mind is in such a way that it is considering that I am this body, and through the body I can enjoy. So initially, because the programming has to be rearranged, or the software has to be changed. If you change the phone, but in the new phone, if you put the same software, what is the result? The same result. Nothing changes. So whatever is the impression in our mind, it has to change. Why? Because the impression in the mind is false impression. So a person who is in Krishna consciousness, he discharges his duty as if in military discipline. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord. This is golden statement. Please mark it. If you accept it, very soon you will be free from the suffering state. And if you don't accept it, till the last breath of your life, we will only have hopes of happiness, but hardly any moment of happiness. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord. Because unless and until the Supreme Lord sanctions, we may desire whatever. But unless and until the sanction, the cooperation of the Supreme Soul is not there, one cannot experience. Because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Arjuna was therefore ordered by Shri Krishna to fight as if the Lord was his military commander. So we have to accept the instructions of Bhagavad Gita as if we are in military unit. In military unit, whatever the officer gives the command or the instructions, there cannot be any argument, or there cannot be any option that I will accept half and other half I will reject. No. One has to accept completely. One has to sacrifice everything for the goodwill of the Supreme Lord, and at the same time discharge prescribed duties without claiming proprietorship. So ahankar, false ego, makes us consider that we are the proprietor, we are the enjoyer, we are the controller. So when we perform devotional service, we can be free from the influence of ahankar. Otherwise, it is not possible. Our constant companion in this material world, in the conditioned stage, are two things. One is the ignorance, which does not allow us to realize that who we are, ajnana, and the other is the ahankara, false ego. Even if we are understanding that we are not this body, it is because of ahankar we do not accept. And what we do, that Krishna is saying, we become self-destructive. So Arjuna did not have to consider the order of the Lord. He had only to execute his order. Arjuna did not have any option. Like in Gurukul, the training and the education was given in Gurukul. What is Gurukul? It is even more strict than discipline of military. That is why today's world, there is no Gurukul. Why? Because no one wants to follow discipline. Discipline following means you will come to the human platform. Animals, there is no discipline. Is there any discipline for the animals? No. They are free to do whatever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. So in Gurukul, the students were always under the guidance and control of their teacher. The Supreme Lord is the soul of all the soul. Therefore, one who can depend solely and wholly on the Supreme Soul without personal consideration, or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious, is called an Adhyatma Chetasa. Adhyat means the spiritual and Chetasa means the consciousness. So who is in spiritual consciousness? One who knows that the Supreme Lord is Krishna and we are all connected with Krishna. So we will follow what Krishna says. Naturally, we will follow. Nirashi means that one has to act on the order of the master, but should not expect fruitive results. The cashier, Prabhupada gives the example how we have to act in this world like a cashier in the bank. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. The cashier cannot say, today I deposited 10 crores. And while I am going home, I am carrying 10 lakhs. Entire day, I deposited so much, I collected so much, and I am depositing 9 crores 90 lakhs, and I am carrying 10 lakhs. What will be the result? He will be confiscated. He will be put behind jail for cheating, for stealing. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. So this is very high level of honor. This is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. To understand the reality that who we are not matter. We are neither this body, we are neither the senses, we are neither our mind, we are neither this false intelligence, neither we are this false ego. But we are beyond all of this. We are higher than all of this. Why? Because we are spirit soul, Atma. And Atma belongs to the Supreme Lord. That is the real purport of my anatomy. When one acts in such Krishna consciousness, certainly he does not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called Nirmama, or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so-called kinsmen in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. So Krishna is saying that throw off your reluctance. Arjuna was hesitating not to fight. Krishna is saying, my desire is that you should fight. You do not have to consider what you like or what you dislike. That is not military discipline. In this way, one may become Vigajvara or without feverish mentality or lethargy. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness as described above. This will lead to the path of liberation. So, as we perform our prescribed duty, this is the theme of this chapter, that we must perform our prescribed duty. Even if it is difficult, even it is to our dislike, even it is bringing so much of inconvenience to us. But we do not have the option or the right to give up our prescribed duty. And how to perform the prescribed duty? For the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Okay? So thank you. I will stop here. To some extent, we discussed the principle. This is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. The principle of Bhagavad Gita is twofold. One, to be in knowledge of who we are. And second, to become detached. Detached from everything which is temporary and which is the cause or root of all misery. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Very few people in the video mode. All of them, most of them, the video is on. Very difficult. Very difficult to connect when video is off. One cannot connect. Krishna is giving the connection through Bhagavad Gita. So if you are there, what is there to hide? Anyway, your choice. Your choice. If there is any question, any discussion, we can have it. Any understanding which one or aspiration one got from the principle Krishna is giving. Two very powerful things we understood today from 3.27, that what is ahankara. Ahankara does not allow us to be situated in real knowledge. So we should not be guided by ahankara. And ahankara is self-destructive. It does not allow us to see the reality. Not only because of ajnan, more so because of ahankara. And secondly, what Krishna is saying, how we have to perform every action, keeping Krishna as center. Mai sarvani karvani. And what should be our consciousness? Sannyas adhyatma jeta, that nothing belongs to me. But I belong to Krishna. This is very important. So, if I belong to Krishna, what should I desire? I should desire Krishna and not desire from Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yes. Any participation from your side? You should participate. Ask. If there is any doubt, any question. Yeah. You can come forward and ask.
Prabhuji, why do Krishna desire? If Lord is complete, he should not have any desire. Why he desire Arjuna to fight? Desirance means something is incomplete.
Voice is not very clear.
Prabhuji, my question was, why did Krishna desire? Why did he desire to fight Arjuna in the battlefield? Desirance comes from incompleteness. If something is complete, there should be no any desire.
Achha. That is your thought. Okay. What you are saying that Krishna is complete. So why did Krishna desire Arjuna to fight?
Yes, sir. Yes, Prabhuji.
Your question?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Why this battle took place? Don't you know? Because Krishna wanted to establish dharma.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So Krishna is always desiring good for everyone. He is complete, but his sons and daughters are not complete. They are incomplete. So he wants them to also become complete. And how they will become complete? when they follow the guidelines which is given by him. Like your father, he is retired. Example, he has his pension, he has sufficient for him. But is he not thinking of you? Is he not thinking of your future? Is he not thinking of your earning? Yes or no?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Why is he thinking? He should not think of you. He should forget you. He has already earned and he has already saved. His life can be secure by the pension he is thinking he is getting. Why should he think about you? Why is he thinking of you?
For our well-being.
Because
For our well-being.
there is some relationship. Relationship is there or not? Is your father thinking about any other student of IRI? Yes or no?
No,
Huh?
no, Prabhuji.
I cannot hear you.
No, Prabhuji.
He is not thinking of anyone else. He is thinking of your welfare. And what it shows? What it shows? It shows his ahankar. It shows his love. It shows his love. That is where we started. Society must have exemplary leaders who should be the role models, whom the mass of men should follow, so that they become perfect. But those who have administration and in control, the government in control, if they are sinful, what will happen? Everyone will suffer. They will go to hell. So Krishna wanted to establish the principle of religion. He wanted to remove these sinful people, the demoniac people. So he was telling Arjuna, don't think of your personal gain. Don't think of your personal favor. Think of welfare of everyone. For that, what you have to do? You have to sacrifice your personal gains, which initially Arjuna was not willing. That is what Krishna is telling here. Nirashi, don't think of your personal profit. This is a word using. Don't have, attachment to what you will gain. So Krishna is the Supreme Lord. That is why Krishna says, why he appears to establish the dharma. Yada yada hi dharma se glanir bhavati bharata. And this was Dharma Yuddha. Okay. So here Bhagavad Gita. If you will hear that this is what Krishna removed all the misconceptions from Arjuna's heart. Similarly, if we hear Bhagavad Gita, all our misconceptions, all our agyan, and also much of our ahankar gradually be cleansed. And the pure soul, that level of understanding and that level of connection will be established. Okay? Are you satisfied?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Happy to see smile on your face. It will be more pleasing if the hairs are less. Then your full smile can be visible.
Yes.
Another way of ignorance is having hairs everywhere. Hare Krishna. Any other question or any other query or doubt or challenge? Anyone? Okay, I'll stop here. Thank you very much. But please align your heart to hear. Because the most powerful process of removing ignorance and the influence of false ego is to hear with heart. Because in the heart, the soul is there. And when we hear Bhagavad Gita, the heart, the soul connects to Krishna. Because Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna. This is very powerful way of awakening the soul. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.